Chris, I'm sure it goes without saying just how disappointed the club is with what another one of your players had to experience over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the reporting of it we've become a bit desensitised, but the reality is that the people who are impacted are still impacted in a significant way, and what we saw on the weekend, maybe from getting a view of what was written, was an elevations, of the issue itself. When you're talking about sexual violence as part of a text message, it takes it to another level. Unfortunately, even though that's what you're seeing publicly, maybe for the first time, I've seen that regularly. So it does put that into some context, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, it's disgusting, it's vile. The people who do it clearly have their own issues. But we are absolutely going to support our players, and we're going to support the AFL into the future to chase these types of issues down. And we're having that conversation with the AFL. We're having that conversation with South Australian Police. I know the AFL are having it with the respective police units in each state. But this is an issue that clearly we've seen a way of dealing with into the future that we'll be taking advantage of.
The NBL's precedent last week and being able to track down and charge someone who's done this, is that the way forward, do you think, to be able to sort of legally hold these people to account?
Yeah, well, I think it has to be the elevation of the issue into the future. So I think we've got to respect our players enough to make it a little bit easier for them to be able to report these types of things, and maybe into the future some laws will have to change as well. But certainly we're going to take the approach of elevating these issues into the future and support our players in doing that, trying to highlight how important that is.
In terms of making it easier, is that one of the ways about not necessarily needing the player or the victim to make the complaint, but the charge coming outside of that?
Yeah, I think that the AFL will need to take a step forward in helping to manage these issues with players. But look, I'm not forecasting the specific way of dealing with it, but I know that it gets tiring for the people who are involved, who are receiving this regularly.
Is Jace considering taking it to the police?
He is.
How is he?
No, he again, when the issue is not just about you, but it's also about your family, it's something that's harder to take, as I say, despite the broader public maybe being a little bit desensitised and over these situations. It impacts the people involved significantly, and not just Jace and his family, our other Aboriginal players as well. So he's okay, but it takes its toll.
Is the club encouraging Jace to make a complaint to police?
We'll support him in whatever he wants to do, but we are 100% of the view that we need to elevate these situations into the future in order to get some change. And as I say, we're having that conversation with South Australian Police.
Is the club looking at having those conversations with government about, how can we change legislation to hold social media sites to account to, chase down these people hiding behind?
Yeah, I mean we are, but at the same time that would be far more easily led by the AFL. So I think the AFL have got a responsibility here to help the clubs to make these issues easier for the players involved if we're really keen to try and stamp it out.
Is the AFL doing enough?
Look, I think that into the future the AFL will be doing more than what they are right now, but that's not to say that they're not dealing with the current situation that they face. But I think we can all do more in the future. It's not just the AFL. I certainly believe that clubs can do more into the future, and we've got to help support our players.
There was a skew in those messages, particularly the one to Wagga Miller about gambling. But how much is the fact that there's such proliferation now of gambling in all forms. When we watch footy and we listen to footy, clear, not any excuse for the behaviour, but it's having an extra impact as well, that people are watching footy through this lens and then taking out their aggression this way.
No, I mean, that's real. The number of peanuts that I've seen messages from over time. I mean, I remember sitting in the back of the bus after a game with Trent McKenzie and Charlie Dixon, and they were reading me the stuff that they'd got from a couple of people who had clearly bet on the outcome of a game that maybe Trent and Charlie didn't quite get up to whatever their expectations were, and it was just phenomenal listening to it. So, you know, it's just another example of the way that modern society reacts in these situations, which is, disturbing.
But is that an issue for the game in general, that so much money flows into the game from gambling, and yet clearly these is pretty extraordinary side of it?
Well, they're issues that the AFL have got to deal with. I mean, we know where money comes from into our game, whether it be, as you're saying, sports betting or broadcasts. You know, we can't hide from where money comes from into the game, but equally you can do whatever you can to support the players in these types of situations.
Connor's hand, is it a test for this week? So
Yeah, I think
probably good news.
Yeah, good news. I mean, I'm not overly optimistic, you know, but I think, yeah, Connor, we'll wait for as long as we can with Connor. He may well come down with us yet, but you know, I think he'll be a test late. Jace Horne-Francis had his surgery last night. He will be highly unlikely to return this year, which is disappointing. We've got some other guys who are battling different injuries at the moment, but getting through. I think we've had Ollie. Willie hasn't been able to train overly much lately. So we've got a few who are grumbling, but that's where we're at, and we've got a big end of the season that we want to perform as well as we possibly can.
They're all unique injuries, I guess. Have you just got a bit unlucky in this middle part of the year with such a wide array of now season-ending injuries?
I think maybe 10 years ago, the people involved might be saying to our blokes, drink more milk, or worried about the collision sort of stuff with broken bones. But typically we will look at the soft tissue ones being ones that we can manage a little bit more easily than syndesmosis injuries or broken bones or ACLs. Those types of things are hard for our high performance department to be on the hook for. But I do think we've been a little bit unlucky.
Is there a risk that Connor could do further damage if he plays this week, or is it more pain management issue?
Yeah, I think it'll be more about pain management for Connor. But as I say, we'll see late. Clearly after three-quarter time or whenever it was, he couldn't really grip the ball at all. So that will be his challenge this week.
Are any of those other guys likely to miss this week?
Look, I don't think so, but we'll have to see how the short turnaround. How we manage those guys for the remainder of the year. We do have to be mindful of the fact that we are getting a little bit thin from a number of players that we can choose from, and we need to balance clearly being as good as we possibly can right now with also managing our players from week to week.
Are we shifting, or is there more of a shift to the future now with some of these line ball calls, given how your season sits?
Well, I don't think we can make too many of those calls yet with... we need players in form, and some of our younger players at SANFL level are the ones who are in form. So, that won't specifically become about picking younger players. Ken and the people who are involved right now still want to, look at 2026 and 2025 and the opportunity to be as good as we possibly can. I mean, there'll clearly be a time where we'll fast forward into next year, but that's not right now. We've got a great opportunity against a team who, of late, we've had a decent record against in Hawthorn down in Launceston this week.
Are you providing Willie some extra support this week, given we're going back into the game first time, just gather around everything that happened in that match and the postscript as well? How are you supporting him?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've got we've got a psychologist here now. We've got other people who help Willie regularly. I don't think it'll be specifically about Willie, and Willie's certainly not the only person in our club who's got a history with Hawthorn. So we'll put support around everyone who needs it this week.
Who do you need to get a look at to see if there are certain players are going to play on next year, players who maybe haven't got a run at it yet?
No, I think we're, albeit the world might not be aware of our decision making. We've got some plans as to where we see players at. We don't necessarily have to see them at AFL level to know that they've got a future or not. I don't think that we're going to be announcing any more contracts right now until the end of the year. So I think that we've done most of those now. I reckon the longer term ones. So we'll wait for a period of time now before we commit finally to the players who are out of contract for next year. But we've got a responsibility to be as good as we can be at AFL level, and if we're giving someone a go at AFL level, it'll mean that we believe that they've got the opportunity to be in our best 23 for that game.
Does Trav Boat want to play on next year?
I haven't had that conversation with Travis yet. I think that I think that Travis has had more battles with injury and fatigue this year. It'll be an interesting conversation to have, but again he's playing some reasonable footy at the moment, which is a good thing for him.
Where does that conversation sit in terms of his decision versus obviously a club call as well?
Look, even in the past when we've sort of left the situation open with Travis, the club has still had a fair amount of say in that conversation. We'll continue to have those conversations with Trav and his management, in between now and the end of the year. But clearly Travis is playing good enough footy at the moment to continue on for the rest of this year at the very least.
What about in terms of the staff for next year? Obviously the news came out about Chatham a couple of weeks ago. Do we expect more change in terms of what Josh's team will look like next year?
I think that there'll be more change in the department. Whether it's to people that you know the name of or not will be a different question. We had the chat with Chad in order to make sure that he was clear on what 2026 needed to look like for him, and that was largely based on, number one, the fact that Chad has been such a fantastic person for our footy club, not just as a coach, but also obviously as a player as well. He's been, really well supported throughout his coaching career by Ken, and he has supported, Ken and the club really well. But when a new senior coach comes in, they get the prerogative to be looking at what changes they need to make, and we felt it was the most respectful way to deal with a delicate situation in Chad, in letting him know. I mean, I have seen an email today from the Coaches Association who are reminding clubs that whatever deadline it is, I think from their perspective, August 1st is approaching. So I'm sure that you'll see more movement around the competition from a football department staff standpoint.
Any update on the Treadray investigation?
That's well above my pay grade.
We found it.
What?
The thing above your pay grade.
Yeah.
At the end.
You've got 5 minutes. You sure you don't want anything else?
I'm done if you
Oh yeah.
Nice to
Do
see
you
you.
expect Zach's sort of Butters has sort of said that he'd go away and over the off season and have a better think about his future? Are you expecting a contract call to likely come in the new year?
Contract calls in.
Well, I know there's
Am
offers on
I
the
expecting
table for
him?
Are you expecting him to sort of delay his future till next year?
Well, it won't be delayed because he's already signed a contract for next year. So, no, I expect him that he'll be, once this year ends, he'll go back to Victoria for a period of time and he'll report back for pre-season at whatever point, and we'll be having these conversations with you about Zach's contract like we had Miles this year weekly, and there'll come a point in time where you'll think he's leaving and then we'll think hopefully he's staying, and the situation will go either one of those ways. I know which one I'm hoping for, and I'm sure our supporters are hoping for.
Club's in the race for Naz. When do you expect he'll make a decision?
I actually don't. I don't know that. So, maybe the end of the year. I'm not sure. I've got absolutely no more visibility on that situation than you all would, other than to say, and this is not specifically with regard to Nasira, is at the end of this year we'll be looking at the ways that we can improve our list. We've traded players in, we've traded players out over time. You will get to see, I guess, at the end of the year, a new list based on what the new coach actually wants as well. So, we've still got a fair bit of change. That's why I say there will be more people who leave from whether it be a staff or players perspective, that will make 2026 at Port Adelaide look different than what 2025 has.
Nas's values growing with every passing week, it seems. Did you feel the club has the means to bring in a player of that nature?
Look, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to talk about, specifics on players. I mean, our salary cap is well managed, and we have enough money to keep the players that we want, and we feel to get the players in that we want when that time comes. Having said that, there's a few that are going to cost us more if they're going to re-sign with us. So, how we budget for that will be interesting. But Jason Cripps has done a pretty good job of that over time.
How do you celebrate Ken in the closing stages? Obviously, it's unlikely to end the way you like, given the injury time where you sit at the moment.
Well, the thing that Ken has been great at, over time is focusing week to week and trying to get the best possible performance that he can for the remainder of the year. And I think that what you'll see from Ken for the remainder of this year is exactly that, is an ability to get the best out of a group, whether they are the most talented group or not. I think most people would say that through Ken's time here, with the list that we have had through that time, that we've been a pretty well performed group. Yeah, we haven't quite got to where we wanted, but his last, if it's only 6 weeks, then we'll be looking to win every game, and that will definitely filter from the top down.